Hello out there. How do you do? Outside the box, Ation. As always, like, subscribe, share. Catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just doing a little live, people. Just doing a little live. As I told you before, and I'll probably begin as we get into this week on this same subject matter. I said we were going to kind of address some things. As I stated before, a few people were getting in contact with me. Been receiving messages, talking to different people, and everybody's just like, well, what do we do and how do we do it? And we're all talking, but what are we really doing? And so we decided to kind of take this approach. After all the years of experience that I've had in working with young people and people in the inner city, one of the things I learned is that you have to continue to be true to who God made you to be in the lane that he put you in to impact people's lives. And my lane has been very close to the front lines, working with young people, little young thugs as they call themselves sometime, or young dudes who are still trying to figure it out, young ladies, girls trying to find out what future wives and women look like and how to conduct themselves, how to dress, and have been aligned with some very, powerful women of God who have helped do the same thing. We're operating in an area where we're trying to touch lives and impact the inner city and impact young people's lives so that they don't become the criminals of tomorrow, or they don't have a bad influence on society as opposed to making their mark on society. And so what I did yesterday was kind of start the ball rolling on some of the things that we've been saying for years and what we try to pride ourselves on doing. The first thing we talked about yesterday was that a person should find safety in a multitude of wise counsel. We talked about that. I believe we even touched on the scripture of it. It's Proverbs 24:6. So going forward, again, I'm going to give a piece of info each day as we go throughout this week. Not every single day, I don't think, but we'll see. Maybe I will do every day. We'll figure it out. But the main thing is this. Sometimes we have to break things down and remind people, okay? We have to break it down in childlike pieces, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a knock on people. It's just sometimes we have to be reminded of, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. You've seen that in church. Remember that? People, red and yellow, black and white, all are precious in his sight. Jesus loves it. See, sometimes we have to remind people that there was a purpose behind this whole thing called the world, and him allowing us to be here and do what we do. He called us to action. And so when we break it down into bite-sized pieces, we understand that God created us for a purpose. And that's what we've prided ourselves on. I've been doing that same thing, saying that same thing, changing lives and helping them approach this, not from a black person's perspective, just because I'm from the inner city, not from a white person's perspective, because I lived in the suburbs before, not from a Mexican perspective, but from a man or a woman's perspective, a person called to the purpose of God and walking this earth, having breath in their lungs and having an ability to impact the people we're around, having the ability to impact the world by just living and operating in their gift. And so we show people how to find that. That's what we like to do, try to help them find their purpose. And besides telling them yesterday that you have to seek wise counsel, not just listening to anybody, because there's a lot of men out there. We talk about this relentlessly on this show, that it's important for every young man and woman, especially when they're children, to be reared by a mother and a father. And that home has to guide and direct them into their manhood or womanhood. But he created them for purpose, is what we should be telling them. This is piece number 2. Tell them that he created them for a purpose. I want you to hear that over. He created them for a purpose. He created them for a purpose. Now, you see what I'm doing right now? What I'm doing is I'm repeating things over and over and over again to dispel years and years and years of brainwashing and systematic input from the world that tells you what you're not, or the world that tells you that you should get your importance from Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, or that you should get your validation from likes or dislikes or smiley faces or no smiley faces, from a world that has told you that you're less than because you're a particular color. Because God says that I created you for a purpose. That means when he says it, screw what everybody else says. Screw what America tells you or America. And also remember, too, that just as much as you may think, or these people, young people that we may be dealing with and talking to, that America decided to take something away from them or whatever freedoms you think you missed out on. But if you grew up in this generation, anytime from the 60s, 70s till now, you have no clue what the 60s look like, the 50s look like, and the years before that. You have no clue what it's like to not have. No clue what it's like to not be able to go to certain places. What it's like to be able to visit certain bathrooms. What it's like to be able to ride on certain buses. What it's like not to be able to visit certain hotels and stay in an actual room as opposed in the kitchen or the basement or something like that. See, people don't know what that looks like. But we're steadily complaining about so it's our job to impact these new faces of this newer generation or this generation, the way I've done it for 20 years and the way I've looked into speaking into people's lives, is that to say that to them repetitively, because this myth and this brainwashing sometimes from people who they come from in American culture, whatever background they come from, or maybe aunts and uncles or fathers who left them and didn't tell them how great they were. Parents who did not give them the necessary tools to know the greatness that lives inside of them. I've worked on telling them over and over again, he created you for purpose. He created you for purpose. And if I keep saying that enough, they'll begin to believe it. Because if you keep putting something in somebody's ear over and over and over again, they'll begin to believe it. So what these young people now have begun to believe is what they've seen and experienced through the music and the television over and over and over again. And what they've done at a very, very, very young age is systematically, they've told our kids that it's okay to smoke dope. They've told our young people that it's okay to drink and get high and to get their validation by posting things, by carrying a pistol, by selling drugs to get money, selling drugs to maybe make more money to get more females, taking pictures with females, taking pictures with pistols. What we've done is we've systematically told them that it was okay to do these things. And nobody, for some reason, is being real with these people and saying, listen, white America's not forcing you to do this. No country has made you do that. We're doing it because we've made it okay. We've made it look cool. And we've not told them enough. He created you for a purpose. And we've allowed them to believe that it's okay not to be sober in your mindset. You know, there's a scripture, very profound scripture that, many people read and talk about, and it's Peter. It's 1 Peter, right? 1:13. It says, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, what does the loins of your mind look like? What is the loins of your mind? People think loins, they think your breast, your waist area, of course, your loins or your lower abdomen level. As I don't have to go into details, but you know what I'm talking about. Loins, right? Well, we got to understand something, that when it talks about the loins of your mind, it's talking about a man being ready to work on the things that are going on in their minds. It's talking about mental strength, or preparing your mind for strenuous mental activity. What is the strain of mental activity that's happening around us? People are not gaining understanding about what they see going on around them, so they're losing their minds. And it's important that we realize that we have to tell them to be sober. Why does God want us to be sober? When the Bible talks in the word about come let us reason together, the devil knows that you can't reason with God if you're not sober. The devil knows that you can't possibly see yourself highly than you ought. The devil knows you cannot see yourself in the image of God the way you should when you're not sober. So he hopes that you will not be sober. He hopes to deny you sobriety by you following his steps. So the reason why I keep drilling into young people, or drilling into this generation, that he created you for a purpose, is because I know that they're fighting with their sobriety. Young people around here are high half the time. You see them in many aspects of the inner city. And it bothers me because I'm from there. And so it pains me to see that, you know, we're not denying ourselves those worldly pleasures by trying to smoke and drink and be high. And the more you do that, you can kind of forget about your problems. Many people know that. You can kind of, you know, feel comfortable in what it is that you want to look like or act like. You can feel comfortable in the way you want to live your life when you're not sober in mind. And it's important for us to realize that the more we allow them to think that it's okay to be that, to not be walking in sobriety, and for them to believe what the world says about them, and for them to believe that they're not created for purpose, then we're going to see them do what we see them doing right now. And that's what's happening. This is just another step. As I said before, we're going to talk about various steps. I think the next segment, we're really going to deal with, you know, what was Satan's design? And that's what I like to tell young people also. Tell people who are fighting with themselves or fighting with their worth in this world. And the reason why we're doing all of this also, people, is we have to realize people, like I said before, you didn't get on till late. I said this in the beginning, that people are questioning, like, what do we do? How do we meet the needs of this, you know, this generation? I'll tell you right now, let's tell them to, as I said before, let's tell them to stop pointing the finger in another direction. Let's tell them to stop focusing on America changing as opposed to looking in the mirror to find out what changes we can make in ourselves. And it's really, really tough to find your validation when the validator was not present in the kid's life. The validator is the man. When the man's not there, it's really, really tough. Do I believe that some single moms can make it happen? Of course I do. Do I believe that every single kid in America who comes from a single family is going to turn out? No, I'm not saying that. Use your brain. But what I am saying is that we have to be honest and real with ourselves, that God's design was for every family to be headed by a male figure. Every home was supposed to be headed by a father. That's the way he designed it. When Adam was in the garden, God said, it is not good for a man to be alone. So he created a female, a woman. And when they came together, they made something very beautiful. And that child was supposed to be reared by both. And if that child is reared by both, then that kid doesn't struggle with its validation. Are there families that, because I gotta say this for some people, because they're gonna say, well, what are you saying that, if they come two-parent homes, that they never seek validation? I'm not saying that. But statistically speaking, the numbers don't lie. Two-parent homes, the kids or the young person develops an understanding of who they are and what they should be doing societally. That's what's important. And when we get that kid doesn't run into the same pitfalls that many of our single family home children are being reared under. Okay. So we're going to talk about this more, but we need to kind of visit what Satan's design was and what he was about to get them here, to get them in a position where they were coming from that type of family, to get them in a position where they're not sober in mind, to get them in a position where they don't keep hearing that God created you for a purpose, because that's what God designed. That's what he's about. We will continue this talk outside the box. Your man Ation. Catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And please like and subscribe and share this with people. Put comments in the comments section. We'll try to answer you back as soon as possible. But we're looking to change life and impact this world. The only way we can impact this world is we're going to stay consistent. We different. We are very different here. And you're going to find that out. We don't think like everybody else. That's why we're called Outside the Box. Your man Ation. Signing off.